there was a couple big signings here in the NFL. Kind of a long time coming. That was the Cincinnati Bengals finally getting done with their 2-star receivers. I'll call them both stars. I think that's pretty easy to say them. Ja'Marr Chase gets 4 years, $161 million, $112 million guaranteed, making him the highest paid non-quarterback in NFL history. That seems to just keep one-upping each other. Myles Garrett, Justin Jefferson. Okay, now Ja'Marr Chase getting in here. Tee Higgins, his teammate, who has the same exact agent, which I thought was hilarious, got a 4-year, $115 million deal with his first 2 years guaranteed, making him the highest paid receiver too in NFL history. Cincinnati Bengals. Matt and others here on Yahoo, Matt Harmon, will use the term carnival team, a little bit about teams that maybe have a good offense, maybe some empty calories on the rest of the roster. Trevor, when you look at the Bengals, what do you think of this kind of team makeup going receiver, quarterback? I mean, obviously you pay the quarterback in Joe Burrow. That's like, right. Yeah, we have that. But this team makeup and maybe going receiver top heavy and what they need to do to maybe fill out the rest of the roster that maybe is now so receiver heavy.
Yeah, I mean, if I were sort of doing the team building decisions in a vacuum, I would have paid Chase and I would have traded Higgins and gotten something back for Higgins, just because there are so many times where you can draft wide receivers, not even in the first round, and get really good wide receiver 2 production. But I can understand for the Bengals, because even though there's not a lot of examples where you see like paying skill position players is really the best way to do it, it works for Cincinnati, right? And if you still think that you are in a winning window, you better keep the strengths as strong as possible. So it's sort of interesting because it's like, all right, well, you look at the struggles that they've had over the last couple of years. I know injury's been part of it. Like that goes into it, it's just some slow starts, but it's also hard to look at this Bengals team. And even after this move, which I think a lot of people would tell you was correct given their current situation, it's hard to go, yeah, okay, now we can expect way more from the Bengals. Now, I think a lot of people that would believe in them and the ceiling of this team would look at the second half of last season and say, okay, well, if you give me that for all 17 games, well, now all of a sudden we're talking about a team that's probably making the playoffs, and it was a team that nobody really wanted to see last year. But when you look at now these 3 players being on these second massive contracts, I saw this morning on Twitter from Jason from Over the Cap, $124 million per year is now allocated in 3 guys. So that's just, and none of them play in the trenches, right? One of them, right. I mean, playmaking at the wide receiver position is important. Obviously, the quarterback is the most important, but like, now they got to have Trey Hendrickson conversations where if you keep him and you want him to stay happy, well, then that's going to be another, like 30 plus million. So now you're talking about like near 160 million of your cap space devoted to 4 players. Mm-hmm. It's just, again, it's hard for me to say that the Bengals made the wrong moves here. Maybe paying them earlier would have been the right moves, but keeping them, I understand, because you want to keep the talent on the team. But moving forward, they're going to be a fascinating case study of having all of this cap space wrapped up in so few players, and none of them outside of maybe Hendrickson being trench players.
I know I've been trying to just divvy it up, because my anecdotal comparison to this is not even just paying 2 receivers. It was just paying 1 receiver. Was when my dad was with the Vikings, they traded away Moss, because Randy Moss, and their theory was in 2005 was, we will rebuild him in the aggregate and also make our defense better. We will spend the money to make our defense better. We'll take the drop off from a locked in top 5 offense. Maybe we're 12th now on offense. This is all theory. My related note, my dad got fired 10 months after this. But was recreate the wins on the offense in different means. Okay, our run game will be a little bit better. The ball will be more spread out. We already paid Dante Culpepper. But then on defense, we can spread some of the money we were going to pay Moss to be on defense. And the thing was, the discussion was have an A offense and a D defense. And now maybe we have a B offense and a B minus defense, and we can win more games. I understood that argument, maybe, but it's easier in theory. And that's why I'm saying that maybe it was too scary to go, hey, we have an A plus offense here. And we have a makeup with trust. And you see the layers that Burrow adds to this offense. It's not another offense, or there's not another really unit that can do what the Bengals do, because of just the chemistry that Burrow has with his receivers, how much control Burrow has. there's some negative downsides to this, but there's also a lot of benefits to this. So that's why I think is it ideal? Like you said, like, yeah, they could probably have maybe nipped this earlier a year ago if in an ideal world. But I think they're trying to make do with what they have. And I just think that this team has so many holes on it that might as well just have some strength that we can lean on. Every week, other opponents are going to come in scared, going, oh, we got to stop Higgins, we got to stop Chase, we got to stop Burrow for 60 snaps. There's got to be benefit to that, even if it's not ideal. Yeah. I'm a trench always first team building guy on top of the quarterback as always, and then pass rush as well. Like that's how my team building philosophy goes anyways. But I think I agree with you where this is just a fun experiment to watch. And I get maybe it's just too hard to take that hard right turn.
I was just going to say, like at this point in time, like they're kind of like pot committed, whether or not you like the bet that they're making, the chips are already on the table. So if they were to, that's why it's like, if you would have told me maybe 2 years ago, I maybe would have planned to move on from Higgins and be able to mitigate that a little bit better. But at this point in time, let's say they didn't even franchise Higgins. Like, let's say they let Higgins walk. All of a sudden, I don't really know what the Cincinnati Bengals are outside of just throwing one-on-one balls to Ja'Marr Chase for 20 targets a game. He basically gets like the Brandon Marshall 20 targets a game treatment, but that's like every single game that he plays next year. So,
and this is why you can run with Chase Brown is because everyone's scared of the receivers. So 100%. Now you can take a lesser running back and lesser quote unquote offensive line and make them work because everyone's scared of the receivers. So it's tough. Or, you try to pivot off of it. Maybe the Jermaine Burton draft pick kind of maybe was that was the potential pivot point, and then they're just when you see Joe Burrow screaming at Jermaine Burton, right, and that was maybe their way to go, okay, now we build a pathway to get this next guy, and then they're like, oh, never mind. That was terrifying and scary, and our quarterback hates him. Apparently the rest of our team does not like him. So I know I was curious if Higgins would hit the market because I'm sure this is less than he could have gotten on an open market. That's how it kind of works. So I think it's just hard for the Bengals to pivot off of this. Yeah.